45 minutes. Okay. Thanks for the time. Now remember, I'm doing this off the cuff. I can't rhyme like verse, and it's just gonna be what I know. Let's see, where's the hardest thing you can do as a storyteller? Gospel. So they, somewhere along the line, the Moores and the McDermotts came in to the South, or they just were there all along. I don't know if they ever immigrated from anywhere there, or the natives dodging this all along. And the Scots and the English came up north. And I don't know what kind of geographic and demographic and farmland problems that created, because the English, more than anybody, brought up most of the good land, I would imagine, for farming and survival, in a certain kind of colonizing way, because they were an empire at the time. So they knew how to colonize according to their own method of, well, none of these empires do it for any benevolent reason. Sometimes that actually corrupts their own system more than the people that they're trying to destroy. But the Moores and the McDermotts were in the South. And there was one point where I could hook this up. If I got time, I could put it on here and make it so it's better. Let's see. They were in the South, and I don't even know if that was their patriarchal name there then at that point, or probably the matriarchal was the Moores. I'm not, when you got down a few generations closer to me, me and my cousins, and then the McDermotts. My grandfather was a McDermott, and my great-grandfather on my grandfather's side, my great-grandfather had another name that it's been lost to time as far as I know from memories, stories, but my grandfather, his father, his father, they were still alive when my mother was like 3 and 4 years old. And my grandfather and grandmother, I seen one picture taken of them. And over whatever life Ireland was living at that time, that England was partially geographically putting them in blocks and like smaller and smaller boxes in their own when they were in the 30s, they looked like a 70-year-old would look today. And it had my grandfather had the farmer jean hookup, like a carpenter's or a painter's dress and pants and stuff. And he had his hat in his hand. He had a very serious look. And my great grandmother was sitting next to him. That's the only picture I ever seen of them. And then I had always seen to my childhood my grandmother and my grandfather's wedding picture. And she had roses. I mean, roses, like a bouquet of roses, bigger than any other one I ever seen. And that's what she was always remembered for. One time, my uncle was driving down the street, and something was about to happen where he could have lost his life. Years later, after my grandmother passed away in 1981, and it's things like this happen in life, and yeah, connection-wise, depending upon the spiritual connection, closeness you got. Like my family always comes back in my dreams. So my uncle smelled roses right about when he's about to take the curve of the corner. And at that time, he slowed down to smell the roses, and a truck or some kind of automobile came cutting across, taking up 9/10 of the whole road, just as he's slowing down to smell the roses. And if he hadn't done that, he wouldn't have survived that next 10 seconds. This is a kind of church talking book for things that everybody has these inside them. Everybody, if you're brought up in certain ways, because we're all a melting pot and different connections all over the place. But this is a talk book church. Anyone can do this without writing it first. Something happens though when you get on you go try to do it in front and on YouTube Live. I don't know. You just get, but when you're here and you're allowed freedom. And I got a million things to tell you. First of all, was that day, and this was, I think that it was basically shortly before or after the Civil War in America, if I got my timescapes right. And they already had them in this chokehold economically at that time, the farmers, the Catholic Irish farmers. They designated by religion wealth restrictions, which weren't talked about, but they used the priests to manipulate the consciousness and fear of the people that were at the parishioners in such a way that the priests were kind of like, I don't know, they came over here and immigrated here, but they were teaching the kids to a fear of hell. I read about this. As far as I know, James Joyce tells the truth all the time. So if you read A Portrait of the Artist as a young man, you're going to see terrible things about hell that expressed in Dante. And this is told to kids who have no reference to, what they might have to do later in life to help their relatives or their society. And they're expressed by the priest I'm not saying all priests are bad or anything like that. Irish people, I would say this is documented in Portraits of the Artist of the Young Man, which turned Joyce totally against a certain way of thinking that he could have developed later on, but he went in another direction because of what he was taught about a certain perspective on Christianity. Changed his whole idealism, and he wound up describing the crucifixion in Finnegan's Wake as rat a peck of Porsmall had German Shem brewed by Arclight and the Riggenbrow. Rat a peck of Porsmall. That's Jesus on the cross. And when you lie, when you colonize, when you don't do it right, when you teach wrong, that's what you get in response. Rat a peck of Porsmall. That's 3 days of suffering in the worst form of capital punishment. That's a clown describing something. There's some people I think is a great man, but it's a little disrespectful to a point I don't know how to take. Because that man was the bravest man who ever lived, and you're referring to him, you got to give him his identity, which is that of no other man who ever lived, because he said certain things 2,000 years ago, even translated 8 or 9 times, give us a chance for survival beyond expectations, having the whole world racked up with nuclear weapons for 100 years. If there wasn't the Sermon on the Mount, I don't think that could be historically possible. We're not smart enough to keep ourselves alive that long. But crossbows aimed at each other for that long. So, he lived about, in historical reference, he lived about, or was born into a family about, I would imagine, 40 years after the total destruction, that England was so selfish it wouldn't even pick up their shoes. Not that they needed help in any way, but they needed enough for survival to stay in their own homeland through their own work, but they were surrounded in all directions by economic straws, grasps at straws, cooked up in every imaginable way, which is colonization and empire in different forms ever since the beginning of time, when civilization was eventually connected across the world, first through boat travel, export and import, but that's when that type of mentality started. And the English had their own take on it after the one that became before that. And I think Ireland was hit the hardest. Like every empire has their own. They have a new situation, but this was said, it's not my thought or original statement. They have a new situation, they're going to gut it back in reference to history. Both directions coming to colonize you through. They gotta teach you spirit. It's a two-pair system. They're to teach you religious attitude. Oh, wait a minute. That's missionaries always have a strange relationship to goodness because of colonization. And they don't use it right. I don't think they use it right. They change the people. And they have to do that. Their superiors to help them. So the college kids and the other people who are very idealistic, who go into a place to do missionary work and help people after natural disasters, usually, as far as I know, wind up telling them how to spiritually household their journey through this life, and they should be left to do it in their own manner, and they should be given aid if they need it because of natural disasters. Do it the way you would do it without them being a trap. That's the only thing I don't understand about missionary work, that relationship it has with colonization. It's like the twin sons of empire. So one day that I read this in a book, that they woke up, farmer woke up, set out to work a day's labor. Probably 9/10 was going into the church and a tithe that was sent off to England. So they only got enough to basically feed themselves for 5 days or a week, usually, because of the tithe they were paying. Tithe, you know what tithe is? It's used for, it's when you advertise, I don't know what we call it, advertise tithe, but when you have the tithing at a religious ceremony or a spiritual ceremony, you're taking the word that it's meant to be done for the right purposes. And it absolutely wasn't. If you can even call it a tithe, but it was a back-breaking, honest man's payment for planting, harvesting, seeding his own product for the survival. And Ireland was potatoes. I don't know if it always had been potatoes, but that might be relative to alcoholism in a way, because potatoes are all carbohydrates, which gives them their strength. Alcoholism? If you look at a powerful so it always got that inside them, especially on the weekends. My Pepe, on the weekends, he'd work a 12-hour day, 5 days a week, even more, at the hardest job he had at the Clystone, which was almost impossible for anybody to do. And he burnt out his lungs through years of it because it was attached to a lot of like ember-like sizes of dust mote that the engine just. So this is you have to do, and you do it for 55 years. Get maybe 8 years off. And there's a strange correlation because some men get stronger through that, some families get stronger, and if they're in certain other fields, I mean, after you lose, usually in that time it helped them. When their labor ended, they were given their years, they were totally different. In the French, it was, well, my Pepe had his unique language, brought down from Montreal. My Meme had references to Canuck in her language, and other forms of Canadian French. When she used to look at my Pepe and say, what the hell kind of sentences is you putting together? I don't know what kind of language that is. That's what she used to say to me. He's speaking about 5 different French dialects, and he's throwing his own words in, and that's that's because he'd been away from. Well, he never bet. He was born in Canada, but he'd been away from the origins of that language. That's and I'm fascinated by etymology, but I'm getting off track because these are. When I want to talk about what I don't want to talk about, but I feel it's necessary. Is this how this relates to the way of attitude that we could have? Which is a basic way of storytelling. You hope it's gotta do some benefit in a universal way in the end, because history always circles around and bites you in the tail with the mistakes of your either survival mode or misunderstanding of it through making the wrong connections with the wrong people. And that can happen anyway, or you can gain from it or lose it. I usually find lately that that's not happening to me anymore. It's happened to me all the time when I was in my 20s. And I lost a lot because of it. Probably through my own fault. Making the wrong choices with friends. Just stop at a bank and get your keys locked in your car. Meet somebody you shouldn't be meeting, and your whole next 20 years changes. You go in a different direction down the street, and met different. I don't know. That's true. That's just. So the potatoes. Yeah, I can't imagine what it would be. It wouldn't even be fair because those men's backs couldn't be broken that way. Their fear was of their creator. And I have a certain, right now I think about that and it brings me disgust about who would do that. Hike up the tide when everything comes up black from the ground. The potatoes, I mean, of course. Not, it should say rotten and uneatable. And why? Because the seed was wrong. Who sent the seed? That's the only thing I could figure. Or the rain was drifting. Some reason, some combination of reasons. Very bad seed. And it just sent up a rotten crop. So they came out to the field. Everything was broken. Farmer had his whole field, his whole family, and the connections, and cousins, brothers, sisters, sons, daughters, and connections through villages. I don't know what you would call it back then, the areas that were divided into sections that you these days you can see from the sky. You're going to see from a certain height above them that island is still like that, divided like that, and together, knitted like that together. So, right, it feels. Except north, I would imagine, there was nothing. Now, you know what there was? There was love. There was the love of people who weren't going to be broken. And they had nothing on the table for a stay in Ireland or immigration. Moving or staying. You couldn't move and they couldn't stay. Either one. Yeah, I think, and I'm not sure about this historically, but I would imagine that their survival and salvation was to split up. Send some members of the families to America and keep some at home to keep the property, the different structures of the city and how they were related to their farms together. They they certainly weren't going to follow the pattern that they've been handed from their colonizers. And so the priests hooked up with the English in their sermons out of fear too. You have to give them that at least. That they were going to be dragged down to the pits, I would imagine, by their own superiors in their own... Most of them were lying because they had to. What do you think about that? And I met one of those priests when I was 18 years old. I went to him for help. He was Irish. Now, I'm not making a categorical judgment. But we don't allow a man to get married. You don't allow him any form of release. Turns on. Cowards, like, who can't face themselves, just went off. I mean, I don't differentiate this that some people become priests from love of their creator, and they're honest, and they're good, and some others usually draw their shades much earlier than twilight. Draw their shades around noontime, even on sunny days. And so I asked this priest for help. I taught him a shower. And a priest who had the children who were the same age as James Joyce talked about, well, hell, which you might go to if you don't do what I tell you. And these were probably sermons that were written in England and handed down and changed, translated, and given to the priests to be told to children the next week. Who knows? But they said, hell is impossible to describe for one reason, because of its relativeness with eternity and the way God created eternity. This was their theory. Their most bizarre theory of eternal punishment for not obeying spiritual beauty and justice inside you, outside you, heart, soul, mind, and body, and growing into your adulthood through developing honesty and love for family and your village and the way you relate to everybody. Only fear at the top. Fear was the king. So what? Fear in people instead of your creator. So, but the description of hell is that they wouldn't use the word. What was the word they used? Sanctimonious. That's one of their weapons to rubbing my finger and fourth thumb, which is a very strange. You see the shadow of your when you're rubbing your finger and your fourth thumb. All you see is spider jaws or big claws. Not even human, but I'm just saying that. I don't know. The way we could break out of it. Imagine a bird. And this is similar to the Prometheus legend with the alcoholic, too. I think it's very clever because it's a hand-me-down, transcended analogy. They say you pick up one pebble, a sparrow, say, picks up one pebble from the ocean. An island is surrounded by ocean. You pick up one pebble and then bring it to a long, faraway place. Each pebble, the sparrow has to travel 10 billion years to get to the other place. So it takes them the amount of time to get every pebble out of that beach into the other place that is inconceivable in the developing mind of an Irish child. And we have this to the basis of all forms of English literature as one of the archetypal representations of literary genius taught in college. Along with Shylock. Coming at you from the other direction. Isn't he a wonderful representation of the Hebrews? Total lie. Bogus. Who is it? I never met a Jewish Shylock. They don't exist. I did meet someone, but they weren't Jewish. Strange. I don't know if they belong to any particular nationality or geographic related peoples, but they weren't Jewish. So a problem was created there. Originally, they were so brutalized in the 40s from every direction in other places. I hate to say this, that the same thing's happening in Palestine now. And this is the way the circle goes. It doesn't have to go this way. But we don't have to do this. Remember that. The English gave you Shylock. Don't do it to the Palestinians. I mean, I know that they got furious. They're furious. And they come from totally different, I don't know. I'm going in a different direction, so I'm just saying whatever comes to me now. But, so he went from A Portrait of the Artist of the Young Man, which is 40 years after the potato famine. And then the families, I would imagine, I haven't read extensively, I'm just going by what my family said. Each different person's way of, like, living and dividing time between labor and family, and it's a general, not a general, I should say that. It's a family-oriented, especially in the Irish. And in the people that were colonizing them, but that class structure all the way. Class structure. In India, that takes such a hideous form. In India, there was a man who was a great man who had a code of peace, and another code he was haunted by. And he's historically remembered for his trying to bring together all kinds of people in peace. And it's three men like that. Mentioned in a song. So one of them I don't know. He's my hero, but he leaves things out. I don't know what to make of that. Maybe that's translation. So that ain't split. And I come from the people that came over here around Boston. I have no geographic relationship to the people from South Boston area and other areas around Boston, or who I come from the connection of Watertown in Boston. If I didn't, I wouldn't be here right now. I'd be 6 feet under. I mean, if I was born in South Boston or Watertown, I would be in my grave. Because of the way I was treated, I don't know with the connection. I do know. I'm not going to say it because I love the person and I hate him. So I don't know what this... gift. My father was brought up by a man whose own sense of fatherhood was not allowed, because everything my own memory knew about growing up a kid was taught her by her mother, who eventually wound up to be a hermit. You have to spoil them. They did it unconsciously, but they did it constantly, protecting them from their own life. Worst thing you can do to your kid, your child. I mean, that's protect them from their own inability to deal with their own future, through spoiling them rotten. Her mother did it to her. Her mother before that did it to her. She did it to my father. My father got a belt. It usually wound up visiting. I'd say he was good too. He had kindness at other times. And that's the thing that's the thing that's hard to deal with. Everything else you never know when one was going to replace the other, because he might be drinking someday. And he was a mean drunk. And he might have been gambling someday, had a big loss or a big win. And you got a difference, but it wasn't much of a difference. So, came over, I guess originally to Boston, down to near the Italian section, and to more nearer to downtown Providence, closer to the VA and Dome Street and all those areas. Usually it's 3 tenements, well, for the second generation, they usually have 3 tenements. Third generation, maybe, after they came over in the boats, which were maybe, who knows, maybe a third of the people survived the journey across the ocean. I don't know the ocean, how much is between an island and America, but I've been told that books and stuff that only about a third or a fourth of them got here alive. Children, women, men, usually put down in the hull. And it was closed in, the upper doors were blocked. And so what did you have there? No access to breathing natural ocean current, I mean, that's from the air, sky, rain, just the air of probably so many people in close quarters. And I don't know if the ones who survived were kept in those quarters, this is too much. All right, I'm not gonna. Anyway, they got to South Boston again, and then came. And I'm saying this because this can be taken and stopped. It's going on everywhere, all different directions. We're all stopping it. We're all doing it. We're all involved. We all hate it about ourselves. We all take up arms against it and aim at one another across the street. We said it should be setting each other free from this instead of corrupting the best parts of ourselves. Do something that is beyond our comprehension and we never can fix. And our Creator has given us this, an opportunity for salvation or damnation. So you, as a people all over the world, pick which one you want, above board or below board, and He's going to let you have it. Either one. Hey, that's what the Father's going to do for you. And He's not bad, He's not mean, He's not ungentle. He loves you with all His heart, but He is patriarchal and paternal. And He has maternal qualities through which He sees through every mirror, every part of every moment of every hour. Nothing gets past Him. Nothing whatsoever. Tell Him whatever you want, your prayers. He knows everything already. So, when you pray to Him, there's something about 2 lines in the Our Father. You're not going to get away. I'm not going to get away with switching those lines around. Putting one on top of the other like an attic in the first floor. It's not going to stand for that. One comes before the other, one is in line with the other, one is after the other, and they're both predicate and propositions, say the same thing. Get used to it, everybody. It was said through kindness too, not cruelty, but the same thing was said. I come not to bring peace but a sword. And in every way that meant I come to bring peace. I don't know how to explain that other than He's giving you the sword for survival. So when you're sculpting a tool and you need something for survival because you're backed in every corner and you have to fight in certain situations because the demons most likely are manufacturing the bombs and physicists are bought and sold by such corrupt governments. I have the time. I have to keep the time. I got to explain it. But you have to have a sword sometimes. It has to be bigger than peace has created peace. You know what it is? It is peace. Put in a forge. Keep you warm. Give you shelter from the elements outside that we all have to deal with. But part of it. But it's a tool that you can take and fashion something from that translation can